Hello. So we are live. It's 3 o'clock in the UK, and I think I may have a time issue with my guest. Um, he's over in the US, and I'm not sure whether there was the time difference between last time we did it. And I seem to remember when I recorded with him last time, we had a mix up of about an hour. So I thought I'll take this opportunity to kind of tell you a little bit about who I'm chatting with, what we're going to be chatting about, maybe show you a few things that are coming up on the channel, and then see how we get on. Might be that we do it at a different time, or it might be that Jamie, who's the guest, he arrives and we can have a chat. I'm pretty sure it's a time issue, um, time difference issue. So it's good to see you all. And I know it's those, as I'll say in here, those wacky Americans. Um, so I'm going to just tell you a little bit about Jamie and Jamie's podcast. So he's got Jamie Ray, and he has a podcast called I always get this wrong. I always like Fab Five for Fans, because so it's four Fs. I'm going to be really careful with those Fs. Fave Five from Fans, and it's a really good concept. What happens is, like for instance, when I went on and I posted the link to the episode I went on, we did my five and his five favorite British horror films, and we went down the list, and it's really well formatted so that like if there's any overlap, you don't kind of just talk about the same things. You can kind of it's not about things like necessarily being the best. It's about them kind of being your favorites, and sort of drawing that distinction. So it's really fun. So, for example, his last few episodes, I'll go through some of them. So he's done favorite five Warlord comic book covers. Then he's done five book adaptations, five alien invasions, five Sherlock Holmes portrayals. Then the one with me, the not five non Romero zombie films. Five. I'm going to stop saying five. Simpsons Treehouse of Horror segments. And what else has he done? He's done so many cool ones. Like even he does some ones that you wouldn't necessarily expect, like like we did horror based. But then he's done like with he brings on different people who are into different things. So he did like five Taylor Swift songs, five Sandra Bullock movies, book endings, then Schwarzenegger, five Tough Mothers, high school movies. So it's pretty much something for everybody there. Even it's like top tens, but in fives. Al, is the best way to explain it. But in fives, and it's it's really cool actually. It's really good fun. To and he's got a really good style, really fun style, and he's doing it now. Hopefully, get to chat with him and see him. If not, I can always reschedule and we can do this again. Seeing as it is probably morning time, Al can help me out with this. Where most of the people who watch the channel are, I know we've got some people in the UK as well. Hopefully, they're watching too. They may be watching the football. Who knows? We have our own version of Super Sunday in the UK. But soccer. So I'm going to just tell you about a few things that are coming up on the channel. So next week, next Saturday, we're doing a live stream of The Uninvited, the cat-based horror film, George Kennedy, with Larry, the horror cat dad. Really looking forward to that. And then on next Sunday, I'm doing the British film, Shane Meadows' film Dead Man's Shoes, which I hope that people will watch and enjoy that. That's on the 3rd. And on the 2nd, like I say, is The Uninvited. We've got Dead Man's Shoes, sort of revenge film. If you like Get Carter, but kind of a different take on that, you'll really like Dead Man's Shoes if you've not seen it. In fact, I'll show you a little trailer. I've made a little trailer for it, some few bits. I'm doing that with Mike the Fifth Beatle. And those are the next two live streams I've got set up. I know there's some things going on with our surviving series that Al's sorting. Okay, it is 10 Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. So it could be Jamie is asleep, or it could be he's having his breakfast, or it could be he's just like, I'm doing my interview at the time that I said we are, which was like maybe in an hour's time. I am not going to be able to talk for a full hour, I don't think. But who knows? let's have a look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you trailers for a few things that we're doing soon coming up. We can do this and ask me anything if you want. And there's 3 people watching them. We can do that as well. So anything about the channel, anything about me, not too private, I guess, not like inside leg measurement and things like that. But you can ask me within reason anything you want. And let's start off by doing a few trailers. Now, I did show this. If you watched our Surviving Mastodons the other day, the Wings Hauser week, which I'm planning to do in January, Al's lined up. Gareth Video Tasties is lined up. We're going to see some really cool Wings Hauser films. So I'm going to show you this to start with. This is a trailer for something that's coming up hopefully in January. The most amount of editing I've ever done. So I'll let you have a look at that. Let me see. Oh, I've got lots of comments here. Oh, we've got Kal-Al. How long have I been doing this? This live stream 6 minutes or YouTube. I don't know, not that long. I guess maybe I set it up about 2019, I think, and then I only really started doing this in earnest the last maybe 4 or 5 months. So that's a good question, and thanks, Cal, for that. Thanks for and Alan Cal. Origin of the name, Australian TV show Pugwall about a band, and then Austin 316 crossed with that. It was a silly band, like joke band that we came up with at university. So there's 6 of us who were in this band, and I set up the YouTube page so we could share videos to each other, because we all live all over the UK, and we thought, oh, we'll do that. Never really did anything with it. And then I did a podcast, All Things Horror, and there was some interviews that I did, but they didn't really feel like they fit right with the podcast, kind of separate. And I interview people in my everyday life. And I've been chatting to Al for a while, Al Lucard of famous YouTube fame. And he encouraged me and chatted to me. I did a few things with him, really enjoyed it. Put the interviews on here, and the first one was the Jed Shepherd one, and it did really well. People really responded well to it, and then just kept doing it. And then I've just ended up really enjoying the editing side of things as well, and just meeting really cool people. Like, oh, I've just zoomed in for no apparent reason. I was like, let me zoom out. There we go. Like the horror cat dad in the house. Yeah, meeting cool people like him and yourself, Cal. And yeah, it's cool. I'm just also getting to grips with a new thanks, man. Yeah, getting to grips with this new laptop where it just seemingly zooms in and out with no control over. Like, I've just literally done this with I've just zoomed in now, and it's like everything's huge on the screen, and I can't get it back to where it was. So yeah, it's all going really well. If I go back to normal. A great interview. Oh, thanks. I'll put that one up on the screen as well. Yeah. Thanks. So I was going to show you. I haven't done a trailer for the Uninvited yet, Larry. But I was thinking I'm trying to do. I've been a bit under the weather, but I've been trying to do trailers for the live streams, especially for films that people might not know. So let me show you the trailer for a few of the things that I'm doing coming up. So the first one is Wings Week. Some of you might have seen this trailer already, but I really like it. So it's a week of Wings Hauser.
Pugwall 316 proudly presents Wings Week.
That big city monster just opened his eyes. The hustle, the muscle, the commitment. Let's make that deal. Bang, bang, shoot 'em up. Talking about crime. Somebody drop Marvin in a neon slide.
Pugwall 316 proudly presents Wings Week.
I totally forgot that I had it on a loop. But yeah, so Wings Week. And you're right, Al. I just saw your comment. Yeah, The Uninvited is a killer film. It's a good film. I thought it's cat based craziness. Who could I ask other than Larry? And it is great cheese. I think it's George Kennedy, isn't it? If I remember correctly. Yeah. So we Wings Hauser. He's our guy for January. Looking forward to that one. I could just play the trailer over and over again, couldn't I? For the next, like, say, I'm going to give Jamie like the full time till 4 o'clock, just in case it is the time difference thing. But yeah, that's the first trailer for Wings Week, which I'm really excited about. Oh yeah, what a great, yeah, it's Clu Gulaga. I love that name, Clu Gulaga. It's a good name to conjure with. So I am going to show you another trailer for Dead Man's Shoes, only because I thought people were probably not likely to know it, certainly in the US, as many of you lovely people are from the US. Sorry, I'm just getting my voice back. They don't seem to know. Have some ASMR for you there as well. I have that drink. They don't know that much about Dead Man's Shoes or Shane Meadows films. If you listen to my interview with Jason Brown, he lives from the same area and went to the same college. And it was back when there used to be funding for filmmaking, and Shane Meadows was in the year above him. And Shane Meadows has done some incredible films: 24/7, Room for Romeo Brown. This is England. 24/7's got Bob Hoskins in it. That's a good one. But I think the one that most people will come to agree on as being probably his best film, most challenging film, is yeah. I'm terrible at keeping up with this. So I'm going to show. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I need to get Jason on. There's a few of the people from our live stream, from our charity live stream. Larry was good enough to come on, and I was good enough to come on. And Dustin and Jason, need to get them on Al's channel. Get Al interviewing them as well. Let's see what a real interviewer does with them. Puts them under the microscope. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna show you. I'm not gonna keep teasing you. I'm terrible at doing this. The trailer, but this is my little trailer that I put together about Dead Man's Shoes. Let me see what you think. I'm gonna play it about 6 times. No, I'm just gonna play it once. Let me just see. Yeah, it's not on loop. Okay, let's go. Technology. All right.
Join Mike, the Fifth Beatle, and Pugwall 316 for a special movie.
We got together and started talking about the idea that became Dead Man's Shoes. We just got talking one night about, I don't know, just some of the things that had gone on in our communities and things that had happened, and you know, they were kind of atrocities, but they'd been left, you know, almost, and gone unnoticed, unrecognised, and you know, horrible things had happened, but they'd been done in the name of leisure almost, you know. It's like, well, this is wrong, and we started talking about incidents and thinking, well, nobody ever paid for that, you know. Them guys are still going around today, and it just sparked the idea of the brother coming back after 10 years, and kind of making it's the basic bones of it, or it's a revenge movie. But you know, the difference is that we set it in the Midlands, you know, in the peaks, and thought, well, what if this happened in our town, you know, this thing, instead of in you know, Ohio somewhere or something like First Blood, or what if this happened here? So that was the basis of it, and we wrote it in a few weeks. We had not a completely kind of full and strong screenplay, but we had about 60 pages of scenes and dialogues and things that we knitted together. But I think that you know, the truth of it is that we come back to what feels the most honest to us in our heart. And that's where Dead Man's Shoes came, and I think we shot it in less than 3 weeks. So that was the mentality going in. It was just a guerrilla style, back to basics film, you know, with a smaller crew as it was necessary.
The greatest British film of the last 30 years, it's got to be in the conversation. It's so quotable, so intense, really hard to watch, but Paddy Considine is Britain's De Niro. He's got to be one of the greatest living actors.
Okay, so what do you think? Are you suitably interested in watching Dead Man's Shoes with us on next week with Mike. You could tell by my voice, I had to modulate my voice because I was so ill when I was making that trailer. But Paddy Considine, what an actor! I think he's in that spin-off from Game of Thrones. So maybe a few more people in America might know. I know he had a period of time when he was super like going to be the next big thing, but I think he really has kind of stuck to mainly being Britain based. But yeah, it's an incredible film. It really is a great film. It's not an easy watch, but lots of fun. If anybody's seen it or not seen it, I don't know, or want to see it, now it'd be good to watch it with me and Mike. It is on Amazon, and I have it on a DVD. To answer Al's question, I'm not sure if it's on Tubi. If it's on Tubi, surely you would know better than me, Mister Tubi. That's what they call it. No, that's not what they call it. Yes, he is. Paddy Considine's in Hot Fuzz. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same. I'm the same when I make a spelling mistake. I usually put like a little asterisk underneath because I do it all the time. And it's like, oh, but you're teaching. You shouldn't be vague. I literally, that makes me worse because I'm just writing and don't think about what I'm writing. Which I should. So the script that I wrote, Shriven, is kind of based a bit on Hot Fuzz. Certainly the little village element of it. Yeah, he can do comedy as well. He's really funny. He's in a film called Ledonk and Scorsese. Is he? No, he's not. He's in a Room for Romeo Brass where he plays like a really pathetic but quite funny character. He's got it all, really. He can do. I think he's done some really serious ones. Certainly, there's one that he directed himself, which is super dark. And then he's done some comedy as well. He can do anything else. Oh, okay. So he's Amazon in the States. I've got the box set. However, the one that I haven't seen of his is This Is England, which is the one that people rave about the most, and they've taken into a TV series. I haven't seen that. Would like to. But I don't know what it is. It's something about like football hooligan related stuff. Just because I'm a football fan and I've sort of seen quite a few people. I don't like. I don't know. It's a bit like maybe the same reason I don't like watching teaching stuff, like off TV shows about teaching and things like that. It's just like I can just about watch an American film about teaching, like was it Half Nelson or things like that. But like there's a thing over here called Waterloo Road, and it's really great. In fact, family friends' daughters on the show, and there's loads of things like that I'm sure are great, but I just can't watch things about teaching. It just feels like work. I guess if I was a mechanic, I guess like watching, maybe I probably would still watch things about cars. People love cars, don't they? Usually mechanics love cars. I love teaching, but I don't like watching it on TV, is what I say. Yeah. Oh, let's see what's that about. This is England. This is the Awful Clash song. Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel like when I'm a bit bummed up, I'm sounding a bit more like Joe Strummer because he's always a bit nasally, isn't he? Like kind of. No, that sounds more like Michael Winner. But yeah. There's a real mix of gritty stuff and light-hearted stuff that I think makes Shane Meadows stand out from a lot of the British filmmakers, because a lot of it, like Mike Lee and people like that, it's like relentlessly sad. And also like Jed Shepherd said anything, like he calls it like poverty porn, where it's like just made for getting awards and kind of, I'm sure it has some good intentions by the creators, but it's either that or you've got the big period dramas, with Keira Knightley and what have you. And it's like both of those things just don't interest me at all. I find it really hard to engage with British film. Like the British films that I've engaged, modern British film, the ones I've engaged with a lot have been like Shane Meadows, Host, and then I just start looking back. But yeah, St Maud, that's a good one I like as well. The British film. Censor, I thought was okay. A lot of people wanted it to be great, I think. And I watched the odd Edgar Wright, but I'm not like Last Night in Soho. Didn't do it for me. What's the other one called? The last one in the Cornetto trilogy. Wasn't that taken with that? What is called The End of the World. Hot Fuzz, love it. Shaun of the Dead. It's like a perfect film. It's a really good film. So yeah, check it out, guys. Dead Man's Shoes is essentially like in a part of Britain that really doesn't get made into doesn't make it into movies and stuff. World's End, thank you. It's a good one. Dead Man's Shoes, because it's got that kind of revenge element to it that you're used to, but it's done in a way that is very real, and it maybe includes people that you wouldn't necessarily see in films before, or it is that kind of thing, when you're from like a working class place and there's those people that just kind of seemingly live to their own rules and do whatever they want, and you just steer clear because you know that you don't want to get involved, but sometimes they draw people into their world, maybe vulnerable people, and you just think, how have they got away with these things? How did they be like Paddy Considine was saying? But they just tend to, like, if you went back 10 years later, they'd still be doing those same things. And it's like, yes, it's sad, and yes, it's pathetic, but also it's very realistic. It's like that definitely, being around all that sort of stuff when I was a kid was like definitely something that influenced me being able to kind of see stuff and avoid it, or walk in the opposite direction, or maybe not let things look like they're bothering me, like literally see something quite wild and out and just go like, so it's that kind of mentality, I think, that you don't see on screen very much. Lock, Stock, the comedy in Lock, Stock is good. I think that's such a breakout for Jason Statham. He's like genuinely funny. Yeah. So, I would say I seem to remember. I think I only saw Lock, Stock at the cinema when it first came out, and Snatch. I remember seeing that one, and then I kind of dropped off a bit. My friend says that the new one about a translator in Afghanistan or something, the new Guy Ritchie one, is pretty much is supposed to be good, like completely not like anything else that he's done. But I don't know. It'll probably take a lot for me to watch another Guy Ritchie film. I don't know. There's a really funny Adam and Joe sketch. There's a comedy guys from the UK in the 2000s. They did they made like animated stop motion things out of Star Wars figures and teddy bears and things like that. And they did one where the director was called Guy Ritchie Toy, and he was just like there's like a little animated version of Lock, Stock, which is really funny on it. Okay. Right. So I got a message from Jamie. He's on his way, actually. And let's see. Oh, The Gentleman. Actually, yeah. I didn't see that one. Not seen Rock and Roller. But there's another one that he did that's like kind of about a bank robbery, and that's got Jason Statham in it. That I did see, and that was okay. That passed the time. It was like an Amazon one. Not seeing Rock and Roller. Don't know if they're any good. Okay. Right. So, that's on the agenda anyway. We've got what was it? Dead Man's Shoes. That is next. That's either the day before or the day. I'm terrible with dates. It's the 3rd. Yeah, because we're the 2nd, Larry, and then the watch along with Mike is on the 3rd. He actually reached out to me about it. Like, I did like a little YouTube short about it. So yeah, so that's when that one is. Okay, so we've shown about Wings Week, we've shown about that, and we're just kind of waiting now for our friend Jamie to come and talk about his podcast, which is a really, really good podcast, and I hope you check it out. Fave Five. It doesn't matter how many times I listen to the podcast, watch the podcast, hear him say it, I always get it. Fave Five From Fans. It's on Spotify. He's got a YouTube page as well. And that'll be worth watching. Okay, so while we're waiting, anything you guys are watching at the moment? Anything you got in the Black Friday sale? Any figures, DVDs, Blu-rays? Anything? I bought an amazing I bought one thing in Black Friday. I got it from it's called Results or Revolts. I got a t-shirt, Pete and Pete t-shirt with Petunia tattoo on the side of it, which is very cool. So that's the only thing I bought on Black Friday. I got it for like £12-13, free shipping from the US. So that's good. Hey, John's here. Hi, John. Good to see you. Yeah, we're, and check out John's channel, guys, as well. If you really, so much stuff on there, but also so much Godzilla things on this. If you love Godzilla, it's really, really good. But so many things on there. Oh, Fiend, I don't know that one. Fiend Without a Face from HMV. Okay, have to tell me about that. Have to tell us about that one. I don't know. That's not what I'm familiar with. Let me have a look. Fiend Without a Face. Fiend. Sounds. Oh, okay. Is it from 1958, John? Scientists' thoughts materialize in an army of invisible brain-shaped monsters. Okay, I'm in. Who terrorize an American military base in this nightmarish chiller. Oh, an Evil Dead. Oh, cool. You got the Evil Dead as well. I also rewatched that for the podcast, so that's on the All Things Horror feed. Just did a rewatch of that. Okay. So yeah, sci-fi from 1958. So that's the one. That does sound brain-shaped monsters. That does sound cool. Yeah, you're right, Larry. Pete and Pete was amazing. Iggy Pop, RTE, the world's strongest man. The music was good as well. That's the thing about people forget about Pete and Pete. I actually still have. I think I have some DVDs of them somewhere. The music was awesome. Pete and Pete. It's so good. It was like a proper grunge. When would you get a grunge sitcom on for kids with a really weird sensibility? So that's fast. That's kind of interesting. So yeah, I'll definitely I definitely can't wait to get my Pete and Pete t-shirt, especially with the tattoo on it. I'll just be going like used to make the tattoo dance on it. Little Pete. So okay, anybody else got some things? I know that a few other people have been. I know you need to guys check out Al Lacard's Black Friday video. I think you saw it. I think you were on the stream, Larry, maybe saw that one as I was going through all the different websites live and having a look at them. That's quite interesting. Oh, and Larry, you got several figures. Now, I guess some of them you're going to have to keep them under your hat because you want to make videos on them and don't want to tell us what you got. But yeah, I'm jealous about a few things that Larry's got recently, and it's probably in the distant past to him, but to me, I'm still green-eyed monster. For example, the Halloween 3 figure and the Thing figure; those were amazing. However, right, not competing. I can't compete. I did get my new best friend Harry. I wish I remembered which person it was who made these, because he was telling me that he's constantly making new ones and putting them on his Instagram. But yeah, oh man, what a film! What a figure! Oh, I don't know what you call it. Not a figure, really, is it? It's a bust. Oh, I don't know, something like that. So yeah, picked up quite a lot for the love of horror. Probably so much that I'm not going to buy a lot more for a while. Picked up Elvira, Tiny Toony Terrors. However, on the way, the new Full Moon Toony Terrors mystery boxes, the little tiny mystery boxes. I thought I was buying a full set, but I've actually just bought one. So find out which one comes, whether I'll end up with Ginger Dead Man or somebody from the Puppet Master series or something like that. It is, isn't it? The detailing on that Harry is amazing. You can really capture the sort of gentleness of him in there, which I wouldn't have got it if it didn't look exactly like him, because that's what the whole point of Harry, I think, is. Like, what made me love that film was just how he protected that little Jack Russell. I had a Jack Russell at the time, little dog, and how gentle he was, but so strong, and how they managed to get that across. So yeah, I think that just is an incredible piece of work. He's just the guy who made that's made a really good Nosferatu as well. Yeah. Oh, thanks, thanks, John. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, some unboxing shots. We'll see those unboxing shots. Good. Some carry on humor. I'm sure that will be there. Yes, Kevin Peter Hall. I was trying to think because he was Predator as well, wasn't he? He passed away. He was in Predator. He was the Predator after they dispensed of Jean-Claude Van Damme. um, yeah, I won't do that. Yeah, it was a really good Nosferatu one. My friend who's in computer games and he's very discerning about these sort of things. We went around all these different areas, and he was just like, "No, this guy is amazing." Like, and we went through all. That's how we found Harry. Because he was just like, "Oh, we need to stop here." Because he just walked past. If it was something like made kind of like by laser printer or not laser printer, what do you call it, 3D printer and things like that, he was just kind of shrug because it's something he knew he could do. And then when we got to these ones, he was like, "Oh wow, this guy's amazing. I need to find out who it is." Because I got given so many cards. I mixed them all up. I did put them at the end of my video. I'll try and work out who it is. Yeah, he wasn't he? Kevin Peter Hall. He did bring it. Yeah, very underrated characterization in that film. That VHS box set of Harry and the Hendersons is kind of almost like a wood paneled, like the car thing. And then there was the TV series, which was strange in some ways. It didn't have the say because they changed everybody, but I think he was in it. Maybe he was in the series as well, or they got a different one. But it was mega popular in Germany, I remember, but not that popular anywhere else. But I think it lasted maybe one season, something like that. Yeah, I played that music. Your feet's too big. Yeah, Nosferatu. Yeah, I imagine Necker would do a really good. They do a good job of everything, though, don't they? I don't know if you guys have seen this, but if you look on Sylvester Stallone's website and YouTube channel and things like that, they're making some really incredibly detailed figures based on his different parts of his film. So there's a First Blood figure at the moment with him in the army jacket and the bag, and it's so detailed and things like. He's done some from different Rocky ones as well, and like, yeah, they really are good. But yeah, it's worth checking out that actually. The sort of the detail that's on that is kind of, I would say it's on Necker level, but they're quite expensive because you get like signed by Stallone and things like that. So like maybe like some of them are like 200 quid, things like that. But I won't be getting them, but I do like the look of them. Oh yeah, it was in Big Top Pee Wee. Kevin Peter Hall. Yeah, that was one that used to always be on the VHS trailers. I feel like even before I'd seen the film, certain ones would just pop up on trailers all the time. Kevin Peter Hall, yeah. Yeah, it looks really good, the First Blood one. I think out of all of the ones they've done so far, I think this is the best one, that the Stallone one of First Blood. That it got me thinking about First Blood actually, and how of an outlier it is in all the other films in that series. Like, it's a genuinely touching, emotional, standalone film that, if you, in a way, is undersold by the fact that it's in a big franchise where it gets ridiculous, and that, you know, and they have their place too. The good fun films, I like good fun films, but like, it's a bit like Rocky in the sense of like the first Rocky's like a character study work of art, and the same with Rambo, first like character study work of art, but then like you kind of go off into the realms of what can we do with these characters, you know, where can we take them and what can we do, and it gets a little bit wild and wonderful. But I think if any of those films that is undersold in terms of, because in terms of what it brought to the table in terms of acting and direction, music, cinematography, all of those things, is First Blood. Like, that is a film that's worth watching, just even if you don't watch any of the other Rambo films. It's amazing. It's such a great film. And sometimes you forget that because you're just thinking like kind of the Hot Shots kind of approach to it, which again is hilarious. By the way, is it the first Hot Shots or the second Hot Shots where Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen pass each other? I love you in Wall Street. Oh, amazing. That's, for film fans, stuff like that is amazing, isn't it? So funny. So yeah, those are some of the figures that I've picked up recently. I bought quite a few little pieces, and as I realized how much I was spending, I was like, oh, well, I got this really cool glow in the dark Vincent Price, and I was just watching Doctor Phibes last night. Actually, I've never been able to. I love Vincent Price films, and Theatre of Blood's one of my favourites. I've never been able to get into Doctor Phibes properly. I tried watching it again last night, and I might watch the sequel tonight. That's a wacky film. It is a wacky film. There's so many of those films that are kind of about people's faces or people's wives' faces going wrong, or people dying and then bringing them back to life, or fixing their face by killing other people, like Corruption, or is it called Eyes Without a Face, where they got that original idea from? Is it called Eyes Without a Face? Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I can't think off the top of my head, I can't remember too much about First Blood Part 2 because I've probably seen the first one more than I've seen that one. But yeah, I seem to remember thinking, oh, this is definitely going in a different direction. But it's kind of the sort of the beginning of that huge, big Muslim men series of, your Predators and Terminators and Die Hards and all those guys, Planet Hollywood kind of thing. Radio Wolf Castle, he was great. Uh, Uh, yeah. So I guess it's kind of going in that direction, and who can blame them? People loved it. People ate it up, didn't they? And it gave people like JCVD and Seagal a career as well. People like that kind of stuff. Hello, where are we? Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whatever it is from Truman Show. Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah. That is a good point. For those of you just joining us, we are we're just about to ready Wolf Castle. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a comedy. Um, Jamie is going to join us in a moment from from his podcast, the Fave Five From Fans. It's a bit of a mix up with it when it came to time. I think probably my fault because we had the hour change, and the last time I recorded with him, it was live. Sorry, it wasn't live this time. It was live, and last time I just waited an hour because it was my nobody's fault. It's just the way sometimes things go. Okay, guys. So if we're talking about franchise films while waiting, which franchise films do you think have like better sequels than the first ones? Because that's always tricky, isn't it? I know a lot of people go straight to Godfather 2. Not Godfather 3. Even though I don't mind Godfather 3. However, I'm not a massive Godfather fan, full stop, because I read the book first and I love the book so much. I think I maybe wanted like a 12-hour film or something. That was the only thing that would have satisfied me. I'm a huge Marlon Brando fan. But I don't know. I was going to say Nightmare on Elm Street. For me, the third one's my favorite. But I've just rewatched the second. Really enjoyed that. First one's obviously a classic. Aliens. Yeah. Yeah. See, Aliens for me, I had this big debate about Aliens and Alien. Like, if you look at them as just two completely different films, they're both at the top of their game in their completely. Well, there's some similarities, obviously, but one's like a kind of tighter thriller, and the other one's like an action Space Marines. They're both 9 out of 10 films for me. But I know I can understand people loving the second one more than the first. Empire Strikes Back, again, I probably have more of an emotional attachment to the first one and maybe even Jedi, but Empire Strikes Back, I think, objectively is the better made film, visually well written. Everything comes together the best in that. I think looking with hindsight, it probably is. I'd agree with that. Again, it's all subjective. What do I know? Yeah. What's it called? The Hypnosil. I got a critical DVD. Let me find it. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Oh man, when you're looking for something, you can't find it. I don't know. Well, that was exciting. But no, I have like a fan art designed box of Elm Street 3, and I got it signed by Kincaid last year, and he just wrote "Fuck you, Freddy" on it, which was really cool. I'll try and find it. Hey, Philip, thanks for sharing this out as well. I appreciate that. Thank you. We're just talking about things coming up on the channel and talking about recent buys, whether it's figures or films, and we've kind of gone into a bit of a chat now about franchises and maybe any franchises that are where the sequels have kind of surpassed the originals. I don't know. It's a tricky one in that sense, because we started off by talking about Stallone and things like that. I don't think a lot of those things can touch the first Rocky and the first Rambo. But Wrath of Khan, you nailed it. That is the best. No one can say that the motion picture is better than Wrath of Khan. You popped me there, and I was yeah, that's true. I love the Wrath of Khan. Yeah, it is the greatest Trek film ever. And do you know what? I recently rewatched Search for Spock as well, and that's got some really big emotional moments in it that are really good as well. It's got my Khan from the Mego figure there. Is it Mego? I keep saying Mego, but I don't think it is Mego, is it? You know better than me with this. Oh yeah, it's Mego. There we go. Yes. Pronounced Mego. That even tells me how to pronounce it on the back of the thing. Come on, Matthew. So yeah. Oh, the other thing I picked up as well, I picked up some pretty cool Garbage Pail Kids movie figures, and I put them with my other GPK ones that I got either free or promotional ones. By the way, that's not an original Adam Bomb, but I got a Sleepaway Camp one, I got a Phantasm one. I picked up those while we're away. Some of these original ones like that. There's one for our YouTube hero, Don Zombie. So yeah, there's some pretty cool pickups there that I did while I was in Manchester recently. Here are the horror ones. Roaming Romero, which I think is pretty cool. Boxy Barker. Dan Tasm. Oh my word, Dan Tasm. Oh, this is just one I had already. This is like a little graded one of Mad Mike. I just splashed out on it ages ago. I can't remember when that was, but quite a long time. So yeah, those are my kind of pickups at the moment. Got this as well. It's a Japanese Young Guns program. There's some artwork in that is amazing. So I picked up a few bits and pieces. Elvira as well, Toony Terror's Elvira. Got this for handmade from. I'm not a massive fan of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but I just like this. That was really cool. I picked that up. I thought it was a Christmas decoration, but it's not. It just sits there. So yeah, that's a bit of a strange one. And what else have we got? Oh, this was one of my favourites I got signed. I made a little video of him on the channel, and while I was getting this signed, I'd chat to him, asked if I could record it. Obviously, didn't just surprise him. William Forsyth, flat top. He wasn't happy with how he signed it, but he was certainly nice. He was a really nice guy. This is eat lead, copper. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, Evil Dead. Speaking about sequels, Evil Dead 2, Larry. Yeah. Thanks, Philip. Yeah, picked up some good stuff. I'll never financially recover from this. Yeah, Mego. Yeah. I'm going backwards through the things now. Yeah, hard to pick between Alien and Aliens. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm not like the world's biggest fan of those films, but certainly those two, I can really appreciate them as killer pieces of work. Yeah, isn't it funny, Philip, how you say that? I only watched it for the first time recently. It is a film made by special effects artists, and that's exactly what it comes across as. So there's no real story, but there's some really cool set pieces in it. I wouldn't say like I'm going to rush out and buy it or anything like that, but I do like the way that the things that they've made look. I think they look really cool. Literally, just bought one of them. And there's some funny set pieces in there, kind of similar in a way, I guess. A big top Pee Wee that we mentioned before. I think that John mentioned before. But yeah, that's so strange because I only seen it recently. Again, it's on the All Things Horror podcast. I'm struggling a bit with my throat, so I'll keep going for as long as I can, and then hopefully Jamie will be able to take the reins and chat. Yeah, it is. It is fun. It is fun. Maybe I'd have more of an emotional, fun attachment to it if maybe I'd seen it when I was a kid. I can imagine being blown away by it if I was a kid. But yeah, it's not. It's not a great work of art or anything like that, but it is incredible what they've done in terms of. I don't think it was a massive budget, but they've just literally put everything into the special effects, like the sort of practical stuff that you really like to see, because that's what it's all about. Is it for me that that's what you want to see. They reused the clowns in Ernest Scared Stupid. Do you know I've not seen? I think I've only seen Ernest Goes to Camp. I think Ernest was there's a big thing over here, but because it was Disney or it was on the Disney VHSs, sometimes you'd see them in the video shop. Maybe I've seen Ernest. Is that the one? Oh no, there's Ernest Goes to Jail. Ernest Goes to Camp. I've definitely seen Ernest Goes to Camp. Didn't mind Ernest at all when I was a kid. I just watch it. Just thought he's a funny guy, Apparently, he was a really nice guy. Even when he was really ill and like close to passing away, he was still like visiting kids in hospitals and like doing Make a Wish and things like that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, love Ernest. Yeah, you never hear anything bad about Jim Varney, do you? That's just good. Sometimes you watch stuff and you be like, "Oh, I really love this person or this thing," and then it's like, "By the way, they were horrible. They were a terrible person." But actually, you only ever hear good stuff about Jim Varney, so that's pretty amazing. Ernest Saves Christmas. Yeah, I probably have seen that one then, because I do like my Christmas movies. So, what Christmas movies have we got lined up? I've made a little video of my Christmas movies that's going to be coming out soon. It's got all my old logos on and everything because I get so excited about Christmas. I'm going to be watching all the Silent Night, Deadly Night films, which I do every year. I did every year since COVID, anyway. It does. Maybe Black Christmas. I've got the BBC Ghost Stories at Christmas set, which I've never seen any of them, which are kind of like the Hammer House of Horror, but for like a bit posher. There's some Christopher Lee in there too, so should be good. And I've got Don't Open Till Christmas, the killing everybody who looks like Santa. Absolutely grimy, miserable British film, which everybody involved in it's either dead or miserable in real life. But it's got something about it. Yeah, it's got something about it. I think it's a Vinegar Syndrome one as well. I think I've always been an Ernest aficionado. An Ernest aficionado? And it's Scared Stupid, yeah. I need to see that one. I guess that's like a Halloween sort of themed one. I think for me, there's like not enough sort of family friendly, good Halloween based films or spooky films. I think what's the one with the Frighteners comes to mind, things like that. So now I can see in the background of my studio, I can see Jamie Ray of Fave Five From Fans podcast, and I've told you all about his podcast, and I really hope you get involved. Go on into his YouTube as well because there's some good stuff on there. But Spotify and all the different areas you can get hold of. He's on Twitter. Really great guy. I had so much fun when I was on his channel. We talked about my 5 favorite British horror films. I tried not to choose horror or Amicus, And then Jamie came with his, and we kind of went, sort of gave each other little clues and talked about them. We had such a good time. I'm sure I kept him talking much longer than I should have done. We had such a great time. So anyway, he's a really cool guy, and I'm going to bring him onto the stage right now, live.
Oh,
Hey.
I am. Woo! I didn't
You okay?
realize. I didn't realize we were using metric time today. I am so sorry.
No, I'm terrible with things like this, because in my day job I have to always translate to like China and Korea and things like that when I'm working online, and I always get it wrong. So I just assume that I have. So let's just say it's me and move on. So I've just been telling everybody about your podcast, and how much I enjoyed being on it as a guest, and just to say thank you for coming on here.
Oh my God, it's my pleasure.
We had such a good time.
And you did not talk too much.
Time.
But by the way, I think the record is an hour and 46 minutes. So you're good.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, that's good. That's good to know. So really, I just want people to kind of learn about the podcast in the way that I have, really, which is through getting involved and actually seeking it out. But maybe let's give them a little bit of context, because I went back over some of the ones that you've done and some of the more recent ones, and it's so disparate. It really does cover so much of pop culture, but in such a fun way. You get different people on, but it's not about, well, you tell us, it's not about who arguing over who's best. It's more about what do you love, what's your passion, like which one do you enjoy the most, which is your favorite. So tell us a little bit about that idea, because I love that. I think that makes it so much more approachable than kind of shouting about which one's better than something else.
Well, thank you. Well, in a nutshell, Fave Five From Fans is all about favorites. It's exactly, you hit it right on the nail. It kind of tears me up when I hear people talking about, well, this is the best, or this is the most cinematic, or whatever, because really it comes down to the individual person and how they see it.
Yes.
And you need no better example of that than going on Rotten Tomatoes and see what the critics say and see what the fans say about a certain movie. So that's the idea. Kind of came to me. I had two really good podcasts that I started to get into. One of them was the Fright Club, which is from Hope and George in Columbus, Ohio. If you're not listening to them and you love horror, then you should seek them out. They do a wonderful program. They're all part of the Mad Wolf group, and they do this show that I've been on a couple of times, and they do weekly shows on their local media. They do programs where they play movies in Columbia. Anyway, great. But anyway, so I started to see that, and they talk about bests, but they also have kind of a favorite swing. And I was like, I really like that, but I have so many interests, just ask my wife, too many, that I wanted to have a show. And when I was younger, we used to go, being these two guys, we used to go on cons all the time. And we would have these discussions like so many people do, that about favorites. Oh man, I love this episode. Here's why. Oh, you're stupid. You hate that episode. I, want this one instead. And it got me thinking that that's what I want. I wanted a show that sounded like you're in the back seat of a long road trip.
Yeah.
And so I said, that's what we're going to do. And I'm very lucky to have a lot of talented, friendly people in my life. And if you go back and you look, the very first episode, which I call it, just 00, is me and one of those friends, Chuck. And we're just talking about all the different things that I want to do with the show. And the very first episode, so the very first episode was favorite camp horror films. And that came off in January of 2020. And I'm not sure if anybody remembers, but 2020, for some reason, was a particularly remarkable year. So I will attribute this show to keeping me sane, because I was able to do it. And I could go to the studio when nobody else was there. There's a wonderful place here in where I live in Lafayette, Louisiana, in the U.S., that was called AOC, or it still is. And thank you, by the way, for everybody welcoming me. So you could go in and you could join, and I was one of the oldest podcasters there, but they made me feel very welcome. And then a friend of mine named Patrick Bennett gave me a small rig to set up and start doing my own podcasts, and I just took off. I started with the camp horror films with a friend called Super Gus. And then anybody who looks at the list will see it is literally all over the place. I like to
Oh
find a
man,
guest,
it really is, isn't it?
right?
It's so
I like
much
to
fun
find
though.
guests.
Like you never get bored.
No, I hope not.
No,
because
no.
there may not be. You may not like what's this week, but next week may be just really your jam, and you want to be in on it. So I do everything. We did food related films with I call him a chef. He's not a chef, but Lo Chang just makes the most amazing fusion film foods that I can think of. My daughter Lily, who at the time was 12, she was in the theater program, and so she and I did a bunch of different episodes about musicals
Oh,
and
that's
about
cool.
musical numbers. Yeah, and she's a lot of fun. She loves. We did Community. We did pranks of The Office. So it can be super, super specific. My favorite
Yeah.
title ever is Fave Five TV guests who were on more than one episode but less than 10. So you really had to like pin it down to get what it was.
Well, that's
And
it. You look at the last few, and Sherlock Holmes, Alien Invasion, book adaptations, all over the map. I discovered your podcast through the vampire episode, which we talked about when I came on yours, and the conversational style, like you say, that idea, it did feel like you're in a journey with somebody, and they're talking you through the things they love, and even I think there's the most recent one is something that I'm not that schooled in. Not Warlord. I want to say Warlord. Yeah, Warlord.
Yeah,
Warlord comics. And I was like, oh, that's something because I love comics, but mainly British comics, which like sort of, I don't know if you know the Beano and things like that. But we kind of, it opened up my eyes a little bit. I kind of do prefer ones where I think, oh, I've maybe heard top 5 Marvel or whatever, and I could have an opinion, and I've seen most of them. But when it's ones that I don't know, the worst thing that can happen is that I go and seek out something new.
Yeah. Well, and then Jamie Cosley, who's been on the show a few times, he's an amazing artist. He does his own, like we talked about in the show, he does his own series called Blue Scar, the Barbarian. It's about this cute little barbarian who goes through all these adventures. But he's also the cartoonist for the Star Wars magazine. And not only does he do the comic strip, he actually approached them and sold them on the idea of it. So the guy is super talented and just a really good friend. And we were talking about barbarians, and the Warlord came up and found out that we're both huge Mike Grell fans. So this one was a long time coming because it was very hard to come down to our 5 favorite, and we didn't. And if you hadn't seen the episode, I like to say that between the two of us, we had 6 honorable mentions. Between the two of us, so let's just go with that.
Because I think when we did ours, we had 1 or 2, didn't we? It's interesting because I'll just say thank you for having me on, especially with it being the 100th episode. I felt very honoured.
Well, you should be.
It was lovely, and we had such a good time. And I think sometimes giving yourself little limitations of what you are, like in your own mind, what you're not going to put in or what you are going to put in, makes it even more interesting. So obviously when we were talking, I said, I'm not going to choose Hammer I'm not going to choose Amicus. Like I'm going to go down a different route. And we kind of both got on board with that, and it was quite exciting. And then the ones that you came up with definitely were spots in my like gaps in my knowledge. So I guess you'll find that a lot with people. Yeah. So do you find that sometimes as you're chatting through, you're sketching down or jotting down an idea of a book or a film that you want to see?
Right here, all the time. I leave every time I do an episode, I put it right next to me so that I could reach out. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a Peter Cushing roles right now, and someone put corruption into my my noggin there to you, sir.
Yeah,
and
one of my favorites.
Yeah, so it's on my list to watch now. It was never on my radar before. So that comes every time, and that comes from me trying to find guests who are very passionate about whatever our topic is. And I always, I don't want to be the smartest man in the room when we're doing these shows, because I want to learn from people and learn what makes people love things, because it's the show's favorites, but let's be honest, it's loves, it's things that you love.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so if you go back over the list of things that I've done in the past, you'll find that most everybody who's done an episode will talk about the fact that whatever that episode is part of their makeup. We did an episode about Edgar Allan Poe in literature, and the teacher was a teacher who taught Edgar Allan Poe in middle school, in what we call 7th and 8th grade.
Right. Yeah.
Just not just brought what we were talking about, but brought stories about teaching and about what kids of that age thought about. And
for sure, if you're interested in it, yeah, it makes a big difference. You can tell if somebody, like you say, really does love the subject. So I remember in my sort of later years teaching the older children, I often tried to choose, rather than books that people would tell me to teach the children, ones that I was reading that would be appropriate and fun, so that I could be just as excited and in the same journey that they were in when we were looking at it. For example, I think one of the last ones I taught to some 11, 12-year-olds was A Monster Calls, because it was set in the area. I don't know if you've seen the film with Liam Neeson doing he's the monster in it, but I'm
familiar with it.
Yeah, it's a great book, really great book. You have to kind of self-edit as you go along, because it's maybe skews a little bit older than 11. But there was kids in my class that when we were reading that, because I was on the journey with them, and it felt real and it felt important. We got so much out of that, and I guess that's a kind of similar feeling what you're trying to get going, and the in the podcast is that kind of feeling that people are bringing you along with their loves and kind of sharing those things and getting you into them as well. Like you said, you're filling that book full of exciting things. So is there something that you would say is your fave subject to be looking at? Because I know that horror comes up quite a lot, and obviously I remember us talking about a Nosferatu screening you did, which I also did a Nosferatu screen, so that's really strange. Exactly. And thanks to so many people who are in the chat now. Actually, we raised quite a lot of money for the Christie Cancer Foundation. So, like, horror for me is just an incredible community of people, which ties in to what you're trying to do with the podcast. Is horror something? Have you got a history with horror? Is that something that's your wheelhouse?
Oh my God. Yes, very much so. Going back all the way to, I want to say the first real horror movie I remember watching, which not too much of a horror movie, was a film called Kingdom of the Spiders with William Shatner. Are you familiar with that one?
Okay.
Yeah, it's a made for TV
it sounds
movie.
familiar, but I don't.
Yeah. I can remember us as a family sitting down and watching that show, and really enjoying it. And there was a whole thing where my dad, we had these big, do you have Tupperware?
Yes.
In England? Okay. So we had this huge green Tupperware bowl that my mom would pop popcorn and fill it up with. And so we're sitting there watching the show, and my dad, kind of reaches his hand around my mom and grabs her, and the popcorn flies up in the air, and we just laughed and just loved it. So she and I used to watch a lot of horror films. And so if you could look around the room in here, you'll see, it's all, it's either Rom, old media like vintage TVs and stuff and horror.
Mhm.
Uh, I love it, but I didn't want the show to be a horror show, even though there's
Yeah.
absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No,
In
no.
my head, the the Fright Club does it the absolute best. So there's no
Right.
need to even try and compete. And I'd like to think we've become friends because they've been on my show several times and I've been on their show. And so we have a very good vibe in that both the times we're talking about favorite stuff, they just
Yeah.
always talk about horror. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be able to have shows. And, you know, my other thing is my shows are family friendly because I didn't want a lot of expletives, you know, a lot of beeps.
Mm.
When I'm listening to a podcast, no matter how good it is, if there's a lot of cursing in it and they're bleeping it out, it just pulls me out of the conversation. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to make it that way.
I get that. I totally get that. I think it's for me, you know, sort of like you say expletives, right? I think for me, I'm fine as long as it's punctuation rather than a lack of vocabulary, if that makes sense.
Ooh, good
So
point.
like
Yes.
like if it was, say for instance, someone like I used to really like Peter Cook and Dudley Moore when they did Derek and Clive. Now that's some of the most disgusting stuff you've ever heard in your life in terms of the stuff they would throw at each other. And obviously it got more nasty as they kind of got jealous of each other's careers and different things. But when they were originally just having these conversations, these sort of it was very much like just everything was very well chosen. These are very intelligent people, but their vocabulary was just intermittently. You couldn't have used another word better, if that makes sense. So like, but then when I'm doing stuff, because most of my job is online, if I get into the habit of effing and blinding at everything, then job isn't going to last. Really, I can't really do that on my daily. So,
Yeah.
so actually, it is sometimes when I'm doing things on YouTube where I'm a bit like, oh, I just automatically don't. But yeah, I'd never really thought about it that way. And I think certainly with horror, the horror fandom is huge now, probably more than it's ever been, I think. And it's more mainstream than it's ever been. And I think, like I do a horror based YouTube channel, but I will throw other things in there just because that's my way my mind works. I go in a
Mhm.
million different directions. But I'm kind of interested as well in some of those other areas. You know, you talked about TV, things like some of the ones I really love were like the Batman 66 villains and the TV principals and Weird Al parodies, TV dads like that. For me, I don't know if you've ever listened to the Odd podcast.
No.
There's he's called Joe Parisi, and he's one called the Odd Podcast. He did one the other week about the TV show Step by Step, and
Oh yeah.
it was fascinating. And I just thought I used to watch that all the time, and I don't know why, but and it has such comfort to it watching it, even though nothing ever happens. It's not the funniest, it's not the best written, but it's just there, and it's and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And listening to this odd podcast, it just brought back all those memories.
Yeah.
So I guess like things like that, TV principles and Weird Al parodies and Batman 66, these things. Do you go to people with those, or do people come to you with those? Like, what's the process?
Oh no, the vast majority are me going to people because for whatever reason, I have an interest in something and I know that they do as well. So, for example, the principal ones, she was a high school and junior high friend of my wife who
Ah,
grew up and stayed in the same hometown and became a teacher and then principal. And I've known her for a very long time, and I knew she had this project going along. And so, most of the time, how do I say this nicely? I have to cajole people who don't do it normally to do it because they're scared. They're
yeah,
like, "Oh, I don't want to do. You know, I sound horrible." Number one thing, I can't stand the sound of my own voice, And
That's why I do
I
interviews.
yeah, exactly. And so I tell people, listen, it's just this, it's just a conversation. It's just us sitting down. And by and large, every single person who's done the show that had some trepidation about getting on loved the experience. Angela, the vampire lady, was the perfect example. She I, I didn't say twist her arm, but I had
Mhm.
to really, really get her to do it. And when we were finished, we were doing it at her house and we came out, she was like, oh my god, I love that, let's do another one. I was like, oh, okay.
It came across. That's one of my favorite ones. I think. Yeah, especially because, like you say, by the time she'd done the second one, you were in the groove.
Exactly. She gives me crap about Wolf Cop all the time. If you
Yeah.
get on Facebook with us, she just hit me with something the other day about the crappiest films ever made and people who love them, and she goes, Jamie has one of those. I was like, girl, you just don't know. But
Yeah, I
that's what
mean, it makes it more fun, doesn't it, to have that sort of
it does.
banter
And that's what I
and
want. I mean, I
laughs.
don't get paid for this. I'm not monetized. I don't have
Mhm.
sponsors, so everything comes out of my pocket. And I know that maybe one day it'll happen, but I'm not really interested in that. I struggled with it over the last maybe year or so because I get a euphoria out of it because I do have
Yeah.
so much fun. I finally get my wife after almost 4 years. I finally get my wife to do an episode, and she
Cool.
loved it and just had a great time. And I'm like, see, that's what I want. That's what I want to get out of it. And I've made a lot of
Yeah.
incredible friends, which you can't knock that. You
No,
can't have
no,
enough
this is
friends.
there is a community element to doing these things, and I certainly um, try and remind myself of that because I think sometimes things are set up to look at the numbers and look at the people and the subscribers and followers and the other sense of. But ultimately, the idea is that you love doing it. If you don't love doing it, older.
Yeah,
I certainly feel like if I don't love doing something, if I'm not enjoying doing it, then why am I doing it?
exactly.
And this is kind of doing the YouTube side of things is kind of my big creative outlet. I do love doing the podcast, but that's really my friend Ben's project, and I kind of just like having an assignment basically to go and watch a movie and then talk about it with no kind of thought about anything else other than just two friends chatting about a movie.
Mhm.
Whereas the YouTube stuff, I'm definitely a little bit more motivated with because I'm using it as a platform to. So if I like something, then I want them on my channel so that more people can like them. So you're a perfect example of that. Like somebody I want people to go and watch. And I said this when I was interviewing. I had an interview last week with Dacre Stoker, and we were talking about the work that they've done, the sequels to Dracula and the Stokerverse and all these things. And I was like, even though that's quite a big name in writing and famous family and all this, I still don't think that if I didn't like it, I probably would have found an excuse not to do it. So I literally bought the books, read the books, loved the books, and that was really lucky because I'd already booked in the interview. um,
Phew!
yeah. But to be fair, I think I probably just wouldn't have done it. And the same goes for like most of the things. If I'm on with somebody and I feel like maybe I don't gel with them or we don't, and it feels like hard work, then I'm not behooved to continue. like so like I really that's why one of the things I really enjoyed about coming on your podcast and is you're funny and informed and warm. Um and what I do like about it is the structure. Tell me a little bit about when you make those lists.
So,
Because I got sent a document and at first I was like, oh, paperwork, but then by the end of it I was loving it.
well, the way I look at it is its favorites. So I do. There is some research to be done, but it's got to be if it's your favorite, then it's already your favorite. There are certain things that I've always wanted to see that, or I haven't seen that in a long, long time. So what I tell people to do is I say, okay, go ahead, just sit down with a piece of paper and just whatever the topic is. If it's Fave Five podcasts, just sit down and write down every podcast that you like. Don't worry about the ones that you hate. Just write the ones that you like. Get a list and then sit down and say, okay, well, let me try to get those down to maybe about 12, between 20 and 12, and then sit down and take a really, really hard look and maybe rewatch something if you think, or go on YouTube. And a lot of times you can find, recaps of a certain topic, and then get them down and say, okay, what is the one that I can't live without? And that's going to be your number one. And then just kind of move them around. And then you've got your list. You get 2 honorable mentions, either something that was really, really good, but not in that 5. It had to be pushed out, or something that's really, really bad, but it's so memorable that it's still a favorite and you can't not talk about it. And so then you sit down and you've got that list. Now, sometimes, for example, when I did the vampire list, I knew in my mind I wanted to put Innocent Blood from excuse me, Innocent Blood from John Landis. And because I remember, oh my God, I think I loved that movie when I was a kid. And I finally found a copy of it and I sat down and rewatched it and I was like, oh gosh, there's no way it could go on the list. It just for my younger me and older me just aren't drinking from the same cup anymore. But it was also so
get that for sure.
Yeah. And so I wanted to talk about it because there was some fun things in it, but it just didn't have that list. So that's what I tell people is, don't go out and watch, oh no, now I got to watch 20 different movies based on this guy. No, you don't. If you think they might be, do it. I did it for Sherlock Holmes. I did it for an unpublished Judy Garland episode that the guy backed out of, but I watched a lot of Judy Garland movies. But, yeah.
Oh no!
If there's anybody who's a big Judy Garland fan, you reach out and let me know. I'm ready for that one.
I wish I could help, but I have an auntie, but I don't think she has access to the internet. So
I think everybody has one of those aunts, but that's what I tell people to do, And again, I'm not going to get you on the show unless you come to me and say, hey, I would love to do this. And I'm like, sure, no problem. I just recorded an episode that'll be out in 2024 on wrestlers of the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm like,
yes.
Okay, sure.
That sounds awesome. So was that your idea? Was that a friend
no,
who was really into
okay. It's a guy named Matt Lee that he has a movie called The Bog Man, and we were at the Lake Charles Film Festival and we're sitting across from each other at tables while they're doing panels or whatnot. And so we start talking and he said, man, I would love to do your show because I have another show called Complete Disarray with Jamie Ray. It's all under the plastic microphone. Thank you. The plastic microphone umbrella. And that's a show where we only talk about one thing and we could just go on and on and on about it. So there's no lists, there's no script. It actually came out from the very first episode number 1, Camp Horror Films, where the guy, Super Gus, brings up Sleepaway Camp. And the fact that this guy has watched Sleepaway Camp every Friday for umpteen years.
Oh wow!
Except during when we didn't have power during a hurricane, and he loves it.
Mad.
And so
I love that film, but I can't say that I've watched it that many times. I've maybe seen it 4 or 5 times in my life, but yeah,
he's probably seen it in the hundreds.
Wow.
So we couldn't go on and on. So I said, let's table this, and so I came up with that one, and he's the first episode of that one where we just talk about it. And since then, I've met Felisa a few times. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman. Gus doesn't really get out to cons and stuff. So when I told her about him, she filmed a video for him and sent it to him and told her how much she loved him. And
I've heard that she's lovely, become like a really good advocate for the horror community, just filmmaking community, independent fans. Like there's an interview back on my channel with the film director Brandon Scullion, and he's just made a film called he's from Las Vegas. He made a film called The New Hands, and Felicia Rose is in that. And
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
he said she was lovely and really helpful. And I think that, you know, when you meet people like that, you want to you never want to be disappointed. You like you know, it's kind of, you're on tenterhooks a little bit sometimes. I've only ever had one negative experience when I've met somebody who I was kind of really excited about meeting, and but that's massively outweighed by the amount of lovely people that I've met. And the same goes for work. You know, I think there is a. It's funny you mentioned about wrestling, but I think wrestling, horror, heavy metal, these kind of little subsets of people tend to be filled with absolutely lovely people. And you're right, Larry. Yeah, she does, from what I've heard, super cool and nice, and cares about the fans. Yeah.
You can,
And I think that's what you're getting with a lot of the people that are involved in you. What I notice anyway from the guests that you have on your podcast. I'm not just saying that because I'm one of them. That was very arrogant. They're wonderful people.
but you're right.
But it's true. Like the YouTube you know, people who come on and comment on my videos, and literally while we were chatting earlier on and about different films and things before you joined us, and it was just like, it's so much fun just chatting about films and things that they bought, and it's just no drama, and it's just really, really cool. And it's weird, there is a crossover with wrestling, I think, as well. Not
You're
everyone,
right.
I know
And,
that, yeah, but
and heavy metal too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's elements of all of that violence, I think, but
Yeah.
yeah, I can't.
True.
Yeah, I can't quite put my finger on it, but you are so right, because I mean, like you said, 99% of the people that I've met in the horror community are super cool. Just,
Yeah.
I mean, are really happy. Yeah, they may be charging you $50 to get a signature, you know,
Yeah.
but I've also met those $50, $75 people that are like, here you go. And I think
Yeah.
almost without exception, they stop and they genuinely are appreciative that you watch their shows, that you enjoy their movies, and that you've come out to see them. And Felisa is, again, not to harp on her, but I mean, she stops and takes time with every single person. And I genuinely feel like I don't care, because take all the time you want to, because every one of these people you're touching and
Yes.
making their lives better. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I don't see that with the super stars, you know.
No, and it's certainly, like, when it comes to, yeah, there's a lot about that. That and yeah, and like Mikey's Morgue as well. He's another good YouTuber, excellent YouTuber. He mixes it up with heavy metal and horror. And Horror Cat Dad Larry, he has a great channel with collectibles. He would be a great guy for you, actually, when it comes to, like, maybe the NECA figures. Certainly, oh my word, he knows his stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so there's so many. I mean, like the horror community, and there's certainly the little subsection of horror community that oh, that's nice. That kind of, certainly I see on my channel, are all really informed, intelligent, kind, supportive people. So I know you collect. Oh, that's cool. Oh
yeah.
man,
That's
love the
that was my
background as
daughter.
well.
Yeah,
That is
in the
awesome.
yeah, she was awesome. Sorry,
Oh,
I
that
had
is
to
really cool. No, I love stuff like that. That's my bag. The way I'm set up here is that all my stuff that's signed is on that wall, which you can't see,
Oh, okay.
because I never had any like plan of doing anything like this. So when I set up my office, I just let my wife put everything out, and she's organized it really nicely. Because I just wouldn't be able to. It's just too much stuff. So it kind of looks like I'm a football and one movie fan.
Hey, but there's nothing wrong with that one movie.
No,
If I can
was,
reach it, I've got my Roger Corman autograph over here.
that's cool. But yeah, it's really cool to kind of dig into your podcast and kind of pick out something that's a common interest that brings us together. And you talked a bit about your preparation, notice, and there was quite a lot of art and comics. I noticed in there that you kind of support a lot of creators, and they kind of come on your show. Just, is that something that interests you as well? Have you always been a comic fan?
Yes, definitely. Since I can remember when I was riding down to the post office I had subscriptions of GI Joe and Star Wars and The Warlord. And so for Christmas, I'd ask people to buy me subscriptions. I think they were like $8 maybe back then, and
Oh,
all
that's
year
much
long,
better.
every month, yeah, I'd get I get a comic book in the mail, and so I love the comics, and so I'm very lucky to have a lot of people in this area. Damon Pelican, whose wife Angela is the one that did Vampires and Werewolves with, they recently moved, but Damon was or is a comic creator and a wonderful artist and writer. He wrote a book. It's been 3 issues so far, and I got really close with them because as an artist, he's not really much of an extrovert. So when you go to cons, I actually was able to take on the role, and I would be his barker. And his hype man as who would come by,
Yeah.
I'd bring him in and we talk. And I loved doing that because it, the creativity that it takes to do what he does is a special set of skills, and I don't have that skill. I'm not an artist. I can't, the same thing, the same pencil that he draws his comic book with, I can do tic-tac-toe with. So I'm like, well,
Yeah, same.
let me take, like the Wonder Twins, let me take your powers and my powers and put them together, and we come up with something, so it's a really good feeling. And then there are a lot of other artists. Coda Chamberlain is also in this area. He's worked on things like Punks is his biggest creation, which well, I shouldn't say biggest, but probably most well known. That was a definitely the creator who did the Spider Punk guy. Kind
Okay.
of they're they're known to each other, and you can't look at the Spider guy without looking at Cody's stuff and going, hey, that's a good nod.
Oh, that's
So
nice, man.
he of course needs no help whatsoever, but we get together at times. We do cons. 2024 is going to be a big con year for me, so I'm hoping to have him in January on a panel down in New Orleans
Oh,
where we talk
cool.
about favorite con appearances and experiences.
Oh, that'll
And
be
then
lovely. That'll be
yeah,
really
yeah,
nice.
that's what I'm hoping. And
Yeah.
again, because I don't want to hear, where somebody broke your heart. I know that happens. It's
Yeah.
happened to me, but I
Yeah.
want to know just what was fun for me. One of the greatest things going to cons was the 6-hour road trip, because
Mm.
we would, just have these long, long, long conversations.
Oh,
So
for
it's all,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I totally agree with that because there's a friend of mine, I mainly see him once or twice a year, and one of those we go to a convention every year. And like this time a couple of weeks ago, went over. He gave me we have to book that time in. And just as you get older, it's really hard to kind of actually, you say, we'll just do that, we'll do that. And unless you put an actual date, a time, or even some money into it, you're not going to do it.
right.
And we managed now to meet at least once every 6 months. That's like my
What you
best
got to
man as
do.
well.
Yeah, you've got, as you get older and those things, life takes its place, you've got to get that time off. And my wife has been very good about supporting me to go and do these things.
Mhm.
I have a good friend who I grew up with in middle school, and we kind of went on and on and went to our different ways, and now he and I have reconnected, and we have now established that we're going to um, Heroes Con in North Carolina, which is
Ah.
the absolute greatest comic convention ever. And I
Oh,
say
cool.
that with no repercussions because it is all by comic creators for comic creators. There's and nothing wrong with wrestling, but there's no wrestlers, there's no
Yeah.
actors. It's just comics, and it's huge.
That
It was
sounds
where I
good.
finally got to meet Jamie Cosley in person after knowing him for years as a Ron Powell. Um, and so that's what we do. We sit down and say, okay, this is the weekend that it's going to be, 2024. I'm buying the tickets. You're responsible for getting the
Yes.
hotel. And
Yep.
and then for first time ever, 53 years old, now we're going to San Diego Comic Con
Oh
on
wow!
Sunday
Well,
for
I've heard of that one.
2024. Yeah,
Even
yeah.
I've heard of that one because the one we go to over here is called For the Love of Horror, and there's a
Oh,
company they call Monopoly Events, and they basically have really took off from a very small starting point, and they're now buying theaters and revitalizing areas, and they do For the Love of Sci-Fi, For the Love of Horror. They do Liverpool Comic Con, Manchester Comic Con. They do a lot of different things, but it's got so big, and we've gone from the first year. I think the first one was 2018, and we've loved it. But I think if we went back next year, we might have a little bit of burnout. So we're going to go to a smaller one if it's on again, which we went to years ago, called Weekend of the Dead, which is a Romero themed one,
oh,
and that one is great because the guy who runs that, Marcus, he is so cool. He's a fireman and he's a fan, and he just basically brings together all the people you want to meet, like Christine Romero, John Russo, Russ Strider, like this year Tom Savini. Really, and it's just. But you buy your hotel ticket. It's all based in the same hotel. You go for a meal with them afterwards, and it's a much
oh
smaller
wow.
base rather than like the last one. It was great, and I did get sick from going, but there was just
John Crud.
3,500 people there, and it's a lot of people. And I think as well, when you live out, I've moved out into the country now, it's a bit of a culture shock to go back to busy places. That people might say that's why I support my football team, because nobody goes. But yeah, it's a really cool one. So just to, Larry, so you go to, or is that Texas Frightmare
Yes.
that Larry was talking about?
Now, Larry,
Wow.
I was also saying that there is a Houston horror. I typed
Yeah.
Frightmare. I didn't mean to. It's Houston Horror Film Festival that
Oh,
takes
okay.
place as well. Houston's about 3.5 hours. Dallas is about, or Irving, where they have the Texas Frightmare, is about 6 hours or so. I go to both of them every year and love them. But mostly I find that I go for, and I don't want to, no disparaging to them, but I go for the smaller actors. They
Mhm.
have, I mean, geez, like I think Eli Roth's going to be there now. John Carpenter was there last year. And
Mhm.
God, man, the people that were in line for those guys.
Yeah,
Um, that one is, whew, man, it got so big they had to move to a much larger place. And even
I
the
think
larger
that's the
place
thing.
is getting to
Mhm.
be like this. The last
Yeah.
place was like this. I mean, it was,
Yeah, and certainly with the bigger names like they did For the Love of Horror, that all the Lost Boys guys were there, and I really
oh
wanted
wow.
to get something signed by Lou Diamond Phillips because I'm a big Young Guns fan, and
Uh-huh.
I looked at the queue and I looked at what else I could do, and I ended up going and having a chat with Eduardo Sanchez instead from the Blair Witch Project. Now,
Oh,
he chatted to us for like 10-15 minutes because it was just us in the queue. And he was a lovely guy and really, really like talented fella. But they just managed to sit him in the worst possible place, and it kind of didn't have a lot of footfall. Whereas all the Lost Boys guys were right near the entrance, and everybody was crammed and twisted. And I was like, I
I
don't
don't know
think
why they do
I don't
that.
think I can. Yeah, I don't think I can I can stand there for that amount of time, getting hot and sweaty and things. So I just kind of picked and choose. But often the people I want to see are not going. Like I saw William Forsyth, and like again, there's not going to be like 150 people queuing to get their flat top figure signed. Even though in my world, that's really really exciting. More exciting than meeting somebody from, I don't know, meeting Miley Cyrus or whoever. I don't know.
Hey,
I
don't
don't
knock on
know.
my source.
No.
Hannah
But yeah,
Montana was cool, but
yeah, yeah,
no, I
yeah.
know exactly what you mean. I used to collect a ton of autographs, and I used to mail stuff to people all the time. And I got lots of people back. I got Arnold Schwarzenegger signed some Terminator figures when he was
Oh wow.
governor, and Roger Corman. And I'll tell you, but my favorite experience ever of doing that was, you're a Star Trek fan too, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
A little
somewhat.
bit. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Certainly
All right.
more when I was younger. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the very early, I think it was second season, they had an episode where a little shuttlecraft
Oh.
shows up, and it's got, there you go.
Gone.
He signed stuff through the mail before he passed.
Oh,
Um,
really?
Yeah, it was very cool. But anyway, so this little shuttlecraft shows up and it's got a Picard from the future in it, but he's asleep. And anyway, the name of the shuttlecraft was the Elbaz. And being a Trek nerd, I automatically said, wait a minute, every ship up to them has been a dead scientist. I've never heard of Elbaz. So I did some research. Now, this was pre-internet. So go to the library, do some research there, whatnot. And I found
Serious
out that
stuff.
he was some serious stuff, and it was fun though. And so I found out that he was a professor at Boston University. So he was a scientist, and he
Ah.
created this passive system that was used to like send out, I don't know, sound waves, radio waves, and come back and do like a radar underground of the pyramids. And so that it was turned around and reused in Mars explorers and stuff.
Ah.
So anyway, I was like, oh, that was cool. And so I sent him, they had these cards that had the ship on them. And I was like, I'm going to send that and get him to autograph it because that's kind of cool and unique. And that's the
Yeah,
weird
it's
stuff
really
that I like.
unique. Yeah.
And I come home and I have a packet one day from the Boston University School of, I can't remember what it is. And I open it up and it's a handwritten letter. So not only is he a professor and a dean, he is the head of and the reason that they created this university part. And he had taught a class that Rick Sternbach was in. And he had come to him and asked him if he could use his name. And he's told him he could. And he had never seen those cards before.
Oh wow!
And
So you were
he,
actually doing something really nice for him.
yeah. And so he said, I hope you don't mind, but because there were two different ones, I kept one of each. But I've signed them, and then he sent me all of this stuff, like a research paper and a copy of the newspaper when the episode came out. They had like a little, shindig thing, and
Yeah,
just so amazed that this guy who's obviously got a lot going on in his life sat down and
that's
wrote this
really
letter.
nice.
So me and a couple of my nerds got together and we found a stack because these were common cards. I mean, we had like a stack of them and I sent them back to him, and they got a little thank you card. And he said, I'm going to start giving these out as my card now.
Nice. Oh, that
And
is really
that's the
cool.
kind of things that I like, because
That is
I
a
was the
lovely
first
story.
person. Yeah, thank you. That's the things that I love. So when I
Yeah,
talk to
the
somebody,
personal
Mhm.
touches are really important, aren't they? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've met people like George Romero at cons back in the day when it wasn't the huge thing that it was. I met, all of the
Mhm.
captains of the Enterprise at the time. Um, and those are great, and those are, awesome to say I did that. But for me, sometimes it's these smaller connections that I get to make. Uh,
Yeah.
thanks, Larry. That really, really, stick with me.
Oh yeah, like I think if just to meet somebody who you like their film or you like their music or you like their comic or whatever it is, and just be able to tell them that is lovely, and then
Mhm.
also to kind of have that if you do get any time just to have a chat on a human level is amazing without kind of going into things like things that people I've met and things like that. I can think of just sitting and having a coke with somebody or just sort of having a chat with their wife and then them coming along and just kind of very organic. I think that's, like you say, the ideal situation for meeting people because we're all just human beings. Like I never get nervous meeting anybody because I just think, well, we're just human beings, and that's the only time you ever get disappointed is if somebody thinks that they're not.
Yeah,
um,
and I've met those people too.
yeah, for sure. We won't go into that because I think that's the thing as well. We've talked so much about the kind of the creation of the podcast and how it is so open to people sharing what they love, which I think is a really important forum and makes them, everybody needs a creative outlet, but who's to say what that creative outlet is? It can be being a collector, it can be being a singer, even if you're not the world's quote unquote best, or whether it is writing or just reading or loving something. whatever it is, that is for me a creative outlet. And I think without
So right.
those, we can definitely sink really fast. I've had those moments where I was just like, why have I got all this stuff? Why do I have all this stuff? And I have these little crises. And then over time, I find myself buying some of these things back. So yeah, it's probably best to have that outlet, because I think it keeps you grounded, and it keeps you full of joy. And I think that's what your podcast certainly does when I watch it.
Oh,
have you got?
you.
I want to listen to it. Is there a favorite episode? Obviously, episode 100 is probably the best, but no, like it's probably too hard to say. Maybe we did your daughter or your wife. Or...
No, I know right now, without question, what my favorite episode of all time is. So this was a Christmas present that I got from my daughters. Let's see, Fave Five movie siblings. So they got together. Now, my oldest Abby lives in Louisville. She is a master's, or she has her master's, and is working at a nonprofit. I'm going to put that up later. And for Christmas, a couple of years ago, I get this little present, and I open it up, and it's this thing. And I'm like, oh, what's this? Those little nerds had got together, taken this picture, cut these little things out, and made a list, each of their lists of their 5 favorite movie siblings. And we got together, and it's on my episode 40. It came out in February of 2021. So over the time that she was here, I made my list, which was pretty quick because and we recorded the episode with all 3 of us. So that's my absolute favorite, because it was a gift to me to be able to sit down and record with all 3 of them.
And that's there now, isn't it? That's something that's like it's for posterity, and it's
right there, right there.
Yeah,
and anytime, sometimes I'll just listen to it sometimes because it's fun. It's like you remember when they were kids. I mean, she's 20. She probably wouldn't want me to say, but she's 23, and my young Lily's 15. And we're blessed that Lily's with us, all the time now. And Abby comes back and visits, or we go to see her. But that was a magical Christmas. Just absolutely love it. So it's really,
and it's embracing the things that obviously Dad loves, and Dad loves doing this podcast, and it's having a real deep understanding of the father, which I think is a lovely touch, a lovely gift. And we've talked about showcasing other people, but before we finish, I just want to make sure that we give people all the opportunity to get out of the podcast what I do. So where can they listen to the podcast? Obviously, I'll put all the links in the description, and I've already put on my community tab the link to your YouTube. But where are the different places people can listen to you? Obviously, there's still episodes available of Complete Disarray. That's still very much something that you do. How do you want people to get in touch and watch, listen, and talk to you?
Well, talking to me, the easiest way is probably on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it today. I use that a lot. I will tell you right now, if you're a very political person, I respect that, but I don't talk about politics. It's just one of my things.
I'm the same.
Yeah, I've got, and I tell people
it's tiring. It's tiring.
Yeah,
it's tiring.
Yeah, and I have enough reality in my life, so I don't do that. But if you want to talk about anything else, you can find me at Fave, and then it's the number 5 from Fans. I'm also, you could reach me on my secret identity, or my non-secret identity of at I am Jamie Ray. And you can get me on Facebook. You can hit me on all of the socials. I even have a TikTok that I've only made one, and I'm trying real hard to learn for 2024.
That's like me on Instagram, just one picture of my dog.
But I love it. And anybody listening or watching, please, if you've got something that you love, thank you, Horkat. That's Larry, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's Larry. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Anybody who has an idea for an episode that they'd like to come on, there it's there. I'm always looking for new guests. I'm always looking for new things.
Cool.
If you don't have a topic that you love, I have a long list of topics that I don't have a guest for, and I've gotten a couple of people that way who have like, oh, let's do one from there.
That's a good idea as well. Yeah, because
Yeah,
it might be a bit like overwhelming, but then when you've got a list, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. We'll have to do
exactly.
another one if you'll have me. We'll have to do another one at
Oh
some
my
point.
god, yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
god. I think we should have two. We should have a Fave Five Amicus and a Fave Five horror. I mean Hammer horror. And
Oh,
yeah, do like a
wow!
bookend, you know?
You're
Yeah,
challenging me. Yes,
I'll take you to
yes.
task. But yeah, I love horror, I love comics, I love pop media. So it's almost limitless of what you can do. And I love
It's
just
been an
having
absolute.
conversations.
Well, this is it. I mean, we'll chat on on X, and we've chatted, and obviously I've been on your channel, you're such a fun person to chat to about things, and yeah, I just want to say thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
And guys, I'm just going to throw out a few of the episodes that I didn't mention. That I think if just throw some words out, and then if guys go, oh, that sounds like a cool episode. I don't want to undersell the ones that I've really enjoyed. So I didn't mention the Muppets episode, and I didn't mention the SNL skits episode. Those were ones, but there's Edgar Allan Poe, like we said, which I really enjoyed that episode too. I've been really going on a bit of a deep dive recently, but obviously I've been kind of working, so I jump around all over the place. I'm a nightmare.
sure.
I don't listen to things 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm all over the shop. But yes, just to say thank you for that. Thanks for those hours of entertainment, keeping me entertained
Oh,
while I've been certainly while I've been driving
thank
around a
you.
lot recently, or while I've been sick and under the weather. It's been helping. So, Jamie, all of your information underneath, also in my community tab, and yeah, it's been an absolute honor to have a chat with you, my friend. And can I just say a huge thank you to the people who were on earlier on. Philip and yeah, the Poe one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Thanks. We're working on a Poe adaptation too. So
oh, that
yeah.
sounds so we'll have to have you back on talking about that for sure. But like just to say thank you to Jay Hall and Philip Morgan and Al Al the card at the beginning there. John Shelton for tweeting this out and sharing it. So many amazing people who have been, and obviously some Kalal as well, Kalal Daly. People who just come on, and certainly if it's like it is for you earlier in the day, and tend to watch these later on. So yeah, it'll be really cool to have to have people comment on and chat. Strangely, I get a lot of people watching these on. I post them as a podcast as well, so I get a lot of people commenting and watching them throughout the week, and I see the numbers going up and up and up. So hopefully, I'll just encourage those people and the people who are watching now to get in touch and get on Spotify, get on all the different podcatchers, and listen to Jamie's Fave Five from Fans, which I am now getting correct when I'm saying it, so that helps. Do you remember when I was doing the little intro for you when we were doing the thing, and I must have took about 12 goes.
No, it was maybe only 5. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, I guess. Oh, cool. Scottish Geek Guy, if you're watching, it's just come on now. If you're, howdy, we're just finishing up. However, I would recommend going back and certainly if you're interested in what, in chatting about all kinds of films, we did that for the first hour. And then for the last hour, we've been talking with Jamie and about his amazing podcast, which I have really enjoyed doing. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Jamie, as always. And I'm sure we will be in touch very much in the future. That doesn't sound right.
Yes, very, very soon in the future, because we have 2 episodes.
I'm unlearning the English language as we speak. So right, I'll just put this on, and I will speak to you all soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thanks. Are we still live? Nope.
We are